Okay, and we are
Hello.
live.
Hey.
We are live.
Hello, my guests. This is a historic moment. How are you doing? I'm doing this for the first time. You guys who were here earlier, you saw me struggling with StreamYard.
The IT department.
Yeah, the IT department, and you guys helped me. And I'm so impressed with myself. In fact, I'm praising myself first that at least I'm somewhere.
You got somewhere.
I got somewhere.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the show. Um, to my right is
Right.
to my right
Is that
is
a-
my husband.
Yeah. I don't know if it's right or left. I don't
Eh,
know what they're seeing, but
to
they
my
can see me.
yes
Yeah, you are right. You are left.
You are right.
is Abraham Mbane, and to my front screen is Mr. Themba.
Mr. Themba, welcome.
Thank you so much, Penny, for having me.
Yes. So really, I'm feeling like I'm on a TV show. I'm feeling like I'm on CNN. So I'm going to adjust my posture and sit straight.
Like you're feeling like you're Anderson Cooper
Yes,
asking the questions.
yes.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy to introduce you as my first guest. This is a show I had wanted to start. Remember, we tried to do it in 2021,
Mhm.
but I had so much to do, so we really didn't get to talk about it. And then, as 2021 was progressing, a lot of people have lost their lives to mental illness. And the last clip that I saw in like a couple weeks ago
Mhm.
is a woman who hung herself and hung the child in Kenya. That was so disturbing. And then I read another clip where this African American woman killed herself and she left a note saying that she was tired and she left the kids. She said she loved the kids, but she couldn't do it anymore.
Mhm.
So when people get to that point, there is something that is happening, but we, especially as Africans or African Americans, we are not at a point where we are thinking mental health is an issue because mental illness is not visible like any other disease. It's not something that is easily diagnosed. It's not something that people are aware. You know, you find people are just sick and they don't even know. So it is the reason that we decided to tap into a professional, somebody who has taken time and studied the brain or studied this kind of disorders. And it is the reason I brought Abu here because a lot of men are dealing with mental issues and they are not comfortable to talk about them, or rather, they're embarrassed to talk about them.
Mhm.
A lot of women do talk about their mental health issues because usually we go through the post, especially mothers who have children. We go through that phase after the childbirth, and we're able to talk about whatever we are feeling, and we share it with other women.
Mhm.
But men, because you don't go through those kind of changes, you bottle up. So
Yes.
and that's why we want to create awareness. And Mr. Themba, I want to thank you. You're going to hold my hand through this year. And I'd asked you that we are going to be regular guests here, me and you, for 2022. As time is going to allow you, we'll come here and even just talk about it and create awareness. Even if we don't find solutions, we will create awareness.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm going to give Abu a chance
Yes.
to talk.
I was going to say if I can just add in a couple of things.
Yeah.
So number one, thank you again, Mr. Themba, for taking your time to come on this forum. And I think it's very important, especially now, to hear from a professional and then the professional being a male. So it's a little bit more easier for us men when you're dealing with somebody else who's openly talking about it and you can relate to him. Yeah. So, and I think you said every Friday we want to have something like what we have, kind of this forum, have some kind of professionals. But I think what Penny said is in her mind, and also I think in everybody else, we want 2022 to be a year where we are going to tackle mental issues, because I think we put them on the sideburn for a long time because we are not very free to talk about it. Anytime when there's mental issues going back home, that was like a taboo. People didn't want to talk about the crazy uncle who was coming and doing funny things.
Or who committed suicide.
Yes, or who committed suicide.
Yeah.
So again, I want to thank you. I think from what Penny was saying, from a male perspective, we don't talk about a lot of issues. Forget about mental issues, even marital issues, even being sick. And my arm may be aching. I'll be there by myself. It's hard for me to pick up the phone, call my friend, tell them, hey, by the way, my leg is hurting. So can you imagine if I can't talk about my leg, how hard it is for me to talk about my mental status? So I think it's something that, hey, we start talking about it, and it might open a few and then save a couple of people from the mental anguish that they're going through.
So the ball rolls to you, Mr. Themba. So if you can take it from there and give us the intro of what is mental health or what is mental illness.
An introduction for himself too.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Penny and Abu, for allowing me to be on your platform. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. And I'm a trained psychologist, and I've dealt with mental health issues and response, especially in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I'm glad to be here to create awareness on mental health issues, and if possible, find a conversation and a platform where people can note the significance of taking care of our mental health as much as we take care of other aspects of our health. Mental wellness is something that we need to consistently talk about. And there's something I want to pick up from what both of you have alluded to, and especially Abu. The fact that our socialization as Africans basically gives us that sense of, it socializes us not to share. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're prepared to be a man, you remember, Abu, when growing up, most of the boys were told you fight like a man.
Yes.
And being and fighting like a man meant that even when you get out of, you play and someone beats you, you're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to come back home and even say what happened, because that one will show your weakness.
Yes.
So you are not trained to show your vulnerabilities. So as to the point that you said that most men of African origin, the idea of showing weakness was taken to be less of a man. So you are less of a man if you show weakness, and it kind of shaped most of our behaviors later. And to the extent that you can be going through so much in your life, but you don't talk about it. You hold it like a man. You know, a man in the African setup is one who is not able to show what's going on. So handle it like a man.
Yes.
Now that socialization has affected quite a number of us Africans, and basically in terms of mental health and mental wellness. And to an extent, when we talk about mental health generally, there are so many definitions, but one that I think is more understandable is the ability for you to manage the stresses in your life and cope with them, because life generally will bring in a myriad of stresses to us. But what's your ability? What are the resources that you have to cope and relate with people around you well? Because now when that is broken is when now we end up in some situations having some people considering suicide as a solution to what they are going through. However, research has been done, and Penny, not all suicide is about getting into that point where you have no hope. Some of it, some researchers have suggested, is what you're calling, I'm doing you a favor when I take myself away. So you're trying to, it's called altruistic suicide. You know, you are trying to do people a favor, getting yourself out of it. so that you guys can feel good. And we are going to understand that probably at some point when we'll be talking about suicide and suicide prevention. And what are some of the things that we need to appreciate? What are the words that we talk about that make it even harder for people to seek help? What are the things that we talk about? What are ways that we behave that make people find it hard to seek help? And one of it, like we have just started, is socialization, Abu. I mean, what does it take to train a man? What is being a man? You know, go out there, show yourself being macho. You know, and part of being macho is that it's easier, like Penny has said. Ladies have a lot of outlets for their issues. You know, for example, Abu, for most men, the idea of chama is very new. You know, before men thought of chamas, ladies had already considered that
for a long time.
And, you know, Abu, part of chama's role was therapy. Because when they go there, if they are going to be meeting for, let's say, 3-4 hours, 2 hours of it is about sharing what's going on at home. You know, so I'm having this problem, or my husband this. They've already talked about you. They've already shared even some of the very deeper things. You know, like if things are not working well at home, and probably for you, you dropped her. And wherever Chama plays, then you went for your own stuff. When you're coming to pick her, the rest already know what's going on, and you are
that's true.
He's pretending to be so nice, and you know what's happening. But you see, she's got therapy, and then the other 1 hour, maybe 1 hour, so is where they are giving out money and stuff, and then they go. But you see, psychologically, that has given a sense of let, because you know, in issues, some of the things that are happening is they are bottled up things, so you don't find a let out. When you don't get a let out, then you know, it's like a volcano. It is energy. It has to come out somehow. So when you keep having it there over time, it will explode. And part of the explosion is what normally we see for some cases, you know, cases of depression, other mental illnesses that probably we'll be able to consider as we move on. So as much as possible, we encourage a sense of letting out and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. You know, vulnerability is not something that is encouraged in our socialization and our culture. And part of it encourages what we are seeing, you know, people who are generally quiet, and then we say, and so was a very nice person, he was quiet, and then some of the stuff they do, we start wondering, but Themba was a very nice person. He was a really composed guy. But you see, that composure could be, you know, masking so many things in there. Yeah.
And that brings us to our first question, which is what causes mental illness? The causes. I mean, in my research or in my study or at my place of work, they say that there is no clear. You are more higher than me now. They don't see really the reason why people are mentally. It's like diabetes or any other disease. Some diseases are caused because of overweight, because of diet, because, you know, most diseases are caused by something. And even cancer, you can see they're still looking what causes cancer. They're still trying to research what causes some diseases. So the question I'll have for you, what would you say causes mental illness? Yes. Because I think you covered the triggers or how you get there, like what are the causes? And then we are going to combine it with the question, who gets affected with this disease? Or, you know, is there a population that is more prone to get it than the other? Two questions in one.
Yeah, thanks so much. That's a very good question, Penny. What causes mental illness? Now, it's very true. The causes are as wide as they are, and within the psychological it started under abnormal behavior. And it's as wide. There's never been really found a specific cause for a mental illness. However, there are some perspectives that have been suggested. That
there's suggestions. The common ones is inherited, is the environment, all those.
Exactly. Yeah. So like there are some of them like mental illnesses that have been traced to inheritance, and that sense of genetic transfer of that has been suggested to be the biological perspective. So we are the medics, they are saying that, okay, fine, there's some genetic, like for example, if certain types of schizophrenia have been found to have their stem, like they can be they are found in people offsprings, like generation. So when they do what you call a genogram, they realize that probably a certain time, a certain generation, someone did certain things, like even depression. Like they say that there's a research that found out that if someone had died by suicide, you follow through, you're likely to find a certain person within that family that also died
the same thing.
So it's found that could there be a link? So there's some that have been found to have that link, and you could have that as a consideration. The other one is psychological. Psychological stemming, our interpretations of our world, the way we perceive our world, the things that happen, how you interpret what happens to you. Disappointments. How do you handle disappointments? How do you, we have, some of us have what you call low tolerance for frustration. They call it low frustration tolerance. There are things that are likely to happen. For example, if you have been you have relationship issues, and you have been dumped, you break up. There are some who that alone is likely to they are likely to interpret that. They do what you are calling ophilizing, making it look so awful, and you take responsibility for what happened. So when you take responsibility for what happened, then you imagine that you are the cause of that trouble, and that
blaming themselves.
Yeah, so you are like, you are the one who made it, fail, and you'll never get someone else. So that gives you a sense of hopelessness and low self-esteem, and maybe stress, and then depression, and then of course it becomes a spiral for some of them. There also social perspective, where you are socialized in a certain way. Where you grew up. They say that there are people who you're more likely to find some mental illnesses within a certain social environment. Maybe in a low income area, you are likely to find certain kind of mental illnesses, as opposed to another social strata. Maybe if you are a little higher up, you find certain certain mental illnesses. So that also has been looked at as a contributing factor to certain mental illnesses.
I think they called it like childhood traumas, things that happen to you when you are in your environment, and you carry them on because you saw so much. So you're not able to heal. Some people see a therapist to heal so they can move on, but some people carry those traumas from their environment or from their family to until when they're adults. And some start, abusing alcohol. They find something to deal with the pain that happened many years back.
Yeah, I was going to add, if you talk about social, I think you said social status. So maybe that also incorporates with the environment, because I think if you're saying these people, this certain social status, they probably live in a certain environment.
Yes.
So even that environment is going to help, or it's going to, maybe it's a trigger. So if socially people are in a lower class, even the environment is not helping them.
Yeah, it's like watching people being killed. you are like 10,
Yes.
and you see your uncle being gunned down.
Yes.
So that
environment.
Yeah,
yes.
That's what
Okay.
he said.
Yeah, that's environment. And then what he talked about in terms of trauma, Penny, is coming in the psychological perspective. You realize when if something happened to you when you are young, and you probably went through a traumatic experience, say rape, or you saw certain things happening within your family, and you haven't been able to process that later in your life. They say, someone writes and says that children later create wounded adults. And if you are wounded adults, if you are going to marry someone who is already wounded, you can imagine you are also going to create wounded children, because most likely you're going to to transfer that to your children. And sometimes we already carrying with us lots of dysfunctionalities. The adults that you're seeing, they're already having dysfunctionalities, and they meet people already dysfunctional, and you can imagine what is coming out of that. And you end up sometimes blaming the children, but basically they were already born in a dysfunctional environment. And you're dealing with your emotions through your children. Like you're trying to bring that up. As an adult, you have the child that was taken care of in you. You have the adult you, and then you have the parent that took care of you. So some of the things that you're bringing out, you are behaving in a way that your mother or your dad would have behaved that time. And some of us become controlling because we had controlling parents. Yeah. So you imagine that's now you're trying to bring that out. And if you've ever, Bane, for example, I just want to ask you, maybe Penny will talk to you, and then you say, you ask her a question like, don't talk to me like that. I'm not your child. You see, it is not you who is responding. It is the child you who is protesting, because now I'm an adult. So
that's a nice one.
The voice you heard from her was the voice the child had, the voice of the mother. So it's responding and said, don't talk to me like that. I'm not your child. Yeah. You see, you find an adult responding like that. Sometimes you don't need to blame them. You need to try and understand where they're coming from. It means that the child struggled through life because that's what they are being told. And now the child is trying to protect, to find their space. And that language, when it comes, you are actually not talking to the person there. Now, one thing I need to tell you, Penny, is that at any one time you are talking, like right now when you're talking to Mbane, 6 people are talking to each other. The child that was taken care of, the adult you, and the parents. Yeah. So those people are addressing each other at any one point. So some of that kind of communication, at times you find you're probably miscommunicating. You're thinking the problem is the person, but yeah.
So before you continue, so I have 3 people in me and he has 3 people, makes 6.
Exactly,
yeah. So 3.
Our stuff. And that is so true.
Yes. I've always wanted to ask a very simple. Sometimes I'm thinking about what, in your opinion, is everybody crazy? I don't want to use the word crazy because we're talking about mental issues, but I'm trying to figure out what is the
degree.
What is the line? If there's a line, is it very thin or very thick between sanity and insanity?
When
everyone.
When do you decide to seek help? Like when are you sick and when are you functional?
So sometimes I might feel, so I think initially you talked about that mentality is how you handle different stresses coming to you. So all these issues are coming to you. It's how you handle it for us to figure out, are you mentally
ill,
mentally not stable or stable? Yeah. So different things are coming to me, and it's the way I'm responding to them that everybody else will perceive, is that person stable in their mind? Yeah. So I think my question is, what is, I think the line between sane and insanity I think it's very, very thin. Or what do you think? Just a line between. That's why we say something. We see a nice person who's been normal per se, and then boom, they flip. So what? My question is, what, according to you, what is the line? Or how thin is that line between sin and insanity?
That's a good question, Mbane. And I want to get back to what I said when I said the definition of what is abnormality is yet to we are yet to get there. That's why even in the realm of psychology, one manual that we use to test for abnormality, they say you need to meet certain criteria for you to be diagnosed. You don't diagnose people by looking at them. So you can't look at someone and meet a diagnosis. There's a criteria right now. It's called the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and it is in the sixth. It's in the sixth edition right now, and of course it keeps being reviewed. That means that as time goes by, we are reviewing. There are some things that were probably considered normal some time back. Later, they have made the criteria for abnormality. For example, let me give you an interesting scenario. If you go to Mbane, you drink, right? You take drinking, meaning taking alcohol.
Yes.
If you go to a church, and
right
there you go. if you go to church, yeah,
in a church tomorrow,
in a church
Sunday.
Yes.
And as people are going on with their stuff, you take out your drink and you start drinking.
In church.
What are you at that point?
I think at that point I'm insane.
You'll be considered insane in that environment, right?
Yes.
You go to a bar, a pub, then people are busy dancing and drinking. Then you get out your Bible and you want to read.
You start reading.
Yes, again. It's a little bit, yeah, you're
at that point, you'll be considered what?
Insane.
So the idea of insanity, or being totally out of the norm has several criteria that you have to meet. And that's why we have before you have been diagnosed, you cannot just come out and say so-and-so is insane. And let us also appreciate things that were considered abnormal many years ago. Over time, the societies adjust and they become normal.
Yeah, we normalize them. Yeah, we don't always say normalizing.
People start, appreciating them. However, our discussion right now, and maybe what you are trying to ask is, at what point do I know I'm tilting off the norm? When you start seeing that you are not maintaining relationships, you are not doing the things that you are supposed to
do.
Yeah, your normal work. You withdraw from people. You are getting some, even people around you start saying there's something wrong with you. Definitely there'll be that sense of Mbane nowadays, I don't think things are so fine with him. You'll start seeing that you'll feel lethargic for the energy that you used to have. For some of them would have less energy, or some of them, like when you are having bipolar, you are likely sometimes to have quite a lot of energy. And then you go down. So you need to find a diagnosis before someone can be done. But if you start seeing those signs, then it should tell you that there's something. Maybe a friend or I need to seek help. Because if you seek help early, you are likely to find therapeutic approaches that can help you, which might not necessarily need medication. Like you see, when you are totally out of touch with reality, when you start probably hallucinating and having delusions, and you might need to be medicated. So that you are returned to reality. You are able to see things. But there are people who don't see you later till. But you see now, the difference in our society is that in Africa, we used to say that one is, umerogwa. Some of those things that you start saying. That's why we don't
I think as we do the series, we are going to come to where we considered abnormal behaviors as witchcraft.
Yeah.
So we are going to involve our viewers because they're the reason we are here. and I would like to take a minute to read their comments so that you can respond. Bossy said, thank you for doing this. So thank you again for agreeing to come. Dr. Janet Gichau said, correct me if I'm wrong. Causes include
holding and
meditating on negative thoughts. That having negative thoughts can cause mental illness and not letting things go. I think that's what you covered in childhood trauma. Something happened to you, or you broke up and you can't heal.
And just on that, meditating on negative thoughts is more of a precipitating factor. You know, like you already have it and then you hold it for long. I think I like that. So when you only see negativity in most of the stuff that go, there are people generally, Penny, whom even when you call them, they are not likely to see anything positive in anything. You know, like when you call them, the first thing, you know, you have those people you call and the thing they are saying, corona jamani. You know,
they're not even aware.
They're very pessimistic. Nobody's seeing anything.
Yeah, they're generally pessimistic. They are already alive. That's why I keep saying that the fact that you're alive is enough for you to be thankful, to see some positivity. But some people, and when they call you to talk, they can never call you to talk to someone about something positive. So if you always see the dark side of life, then you're likely to, you know, have a gloomy, you know, they say that what you give comes back. So you're likely to give a negative effect, and that energy is negative for you. Yes. And then, of course, you're likely to be hopeless and helpless, and only see there's too much drama. I mean, if you want to see negative around you, then you'll keep seeing that, right? Yes. So,
and as we are going to continue, you're going to get to a point where you will discuss gratitude. I was listening to a show in NPR where gratitude or serving other people can help you feel good about yourself, because sometimes people don't feel good about themselves. But they said if you start practicing gratitude where you are grateful for the little things, or where you think there's a person who's less fortunate and you
giving back yes.
Instead of receiving, you do something for somebody, even calling and listening, and you know, little things. So that will, as the show goes on, I'm sure you're going to cover that. Janet again said, she said, I think she was trying to say that it's all what you think about, you internalize it, and some of the choices are made because of associated emotions. Like, you know, you think about things, you internalize, and then a small thing can turn out to be a very big thing. Wanja Jane I think she was responding to what you said. You asked, how do you know that you're mentally sick? I think she says that's why we used SDM to diagnose mental illness. So I don't know what SDM stands for.
I think she meant DSM.
Oh, DSM.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then I'm going to read Jane's comment. Jane Wanja said, when mental health affects your life, routine, socialization, which you've covered, mental health is a medical issue, but there is so much help, including social medical support. We shouldn't shy away.
Yes.
And Jane, that's why we are trying to
talk about
create awareness and look at it like diabetes or high blood pressure. It's just a disease like any other disease. Baba J Studio is saying that he has enjoyed the session
with you, with Mr. Themba. Mr. Themba.
Yeah.
Where are you here in the US?
Texas. I'm in Dallas, Texas. Yeah.
Okay, Dallas.
Yes.
That's good.
And let's move to our next discussion. Who can be mentally ill? Who is likely?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, many years ago, Penny, normally when I talk about who can, I like us going back to HIV.
Yeah.
In the early 80s, HIV had come into Kenya. And
Yes.
it was like feared. The days when people were being buried with paper bags. Because it
Yes.
was like COVID then.
COVID, how COVID
Yes.
came, yes.
Yeah. Now there's something interesting that you noticed. Uh, it was not being talked about in churches.
HIV.
Yes.
Yes.
And pastors were not talking about it. You know why?
Mm.
Because
Associated
the
with
idea
sex.
about
Because it was associated with sex.
Mm-hmm.
And I
exactly
think it was also associated with homosexuality, two things at the time.
sex and homosexuality, and sex
Yes.
and homosexuality in church, it means that is evil.
Yes.
Yes.
And so we don't want to talk about it because something like that should not even get someone who goes to church,
Yes.
and should not even get a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Then,
until pastors started dying with HIV.
That's when, yeah,
AIDS.
now people started
That's
talking
when
about
they
it.
realized, okay, fine, this is actually a social issue.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And the church is part of it's a microcosm in the society.
Yes.
So there's nothing that will get the society that won't get the church, because the same members of the society are members of the church.
Yes.
That's when they started having a discussion. Now,
Yeah.
why do I bring that story? Because sometimes we see some of even mental health like something out there. That one is something for other people, not us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I usually say that anybody can get mental illness. Anybody, it doesn't matter which part of the society you are at. Whether you are in church, whether you are educated, whether you are not educated, whatever it is, anyone can get it.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of even some of us back in Africa, it was interesting that some people were even hiding some of their children who have mental illnesses.
Yes.
Like some of the maybe autism spectrum.
Yes.
Some of them would hide them because it was seen like a taboo. Why would you want to talk about it? And that kind of socialization is what has moved on to the sense that we don't talk about it. We don't want to be seen, and especially for African men, as you are socialized, you are not supposed to talk about it, about anything. I mean, if you're going through trouble, that's you. I mean, deal with it,
Mm-hmm.
and you gotta fight. Now, I understand also in this country, for some people, they believe if you talk about it, probably you won't get employment if you are known that you are taking some mental health medication,
Yeah.
So it becomes like a stigma, So for that sense, therefore, most of us prefer remaining silent. But you see, with mental health, like you say, the mind is like a dynamo. There's a lot of energy that is going out. So you can keep quiet, but it will come out in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So it will either affect your body or it will affect other people around you.
That's
And
right.
eventually is when what we start seeing, and we start seeing the pattern of certain things that are happening. Maybe broken relationships, people who are not able to fit well within the society, and several things also happening that now we are dealing with as a result of not addressing the aspects of this mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So to your question about who can get it, anyone. And that's why consistent awareness and knowing that even me, I can easily tilt,
Mm-hmm.
So consistently knowing that awareness is very important. Awareness that if I don't take care of myself, if I don't talk about what is going on, if I don't do what I hear you calling self-care, which is something that is very important. What are some of the things that you do to take care of your mental health? Like someone has said there, I think Jane or somebody, that if you find your mind going too much into negativity, then you need to do what you call in psychology thought stopping. Stop. Start
Mm-hmm.
thinking. If you call Mbane 10 times and he's not speaking, stop thinking that he's with someone else. He could just be, engaged somewhere. The
Yes.
phone probably was forgotten. But you see, some of us see awfulness in everything. You
In
know,
everything.
Yes.
in everything. But it's how, and even the things we're exposed to. What are the things we read? We've watched too many movies that have told us that, if someone is doing this, then they are doing this that is bad for you. And then, of course, some of us from Africa, we've grown in the sense of you're imagining that everyone wishes you bad. They don't want me because I've done this, because I've done this. So you're always looking at someone is following you. So it's a combination of many factors. But the key thing is awareness that anyone is a candidate for mental illness. Anyone. And you asked an interesting question, Bane, when you started, who is not? All of us have a certain level of some insanity, as they would say. It's only that now it hasn't gone to the sense that you lost reality.
Yes.
Some of us, interestingly, to say, you learn how to redirect your insanity in certain things. Some people love work so much. That they love their job too much. It's a redirection. They will do something bad if they didn't do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to pick, there's two things I want to pick here. Since you are talking about that, let me talk about what I'm going to skip what Wanja asked and speak about what Benjamin just asked. And I'm going to respond to that as somebody who's been in mental health. I went into mental health through developmental disabilities, people who are born with developmental disabilities, or people who had a brain injury and ended up with developmental disabilities. They're not able to function, or people who are at work, who were having a normal day. Then all of a sudden, somebody saw something is not right. They called 911, or a family member.
No, he's back. Oh, okay.
They are normal people. Everybody's a human being functioning normally. And most of the time, it's the people that we are closest to that are going to notice that Themba is not okay. So now Benjamin was asking, you're Themba, you're a therapist. How are you, like, when do you know that you're sick? Your wife is likely to know you're sick because you're with her. Your co-workers are likely to know that Themba is not himself. So the people you are always closest to, they see the withdrawal. They see the negative energy when you talk to them. You don't sound the same. So that is my take from what I've seen or what I experienced at work. People who just lost it. When you read their files, they were functioning normal. And then one day they went to work and they were just talking and loitering around. And then they call, and that's a doctor, that's a nurse, and they're taken into a mental hospital. So the question was, for you, who's going to know, because you are the doctor for the people who are mentally sick. So respond to that.
Yeah, you're right about, we address that in terms of people around you being able to notice. We are creatures of habits. There are things, a way that you do things. And people around you have already noticed the way you talk, the way you do things, and the way you fit into that kind of environment. Now, over time, normally I give an illustration of the way we are like a balloon, and a balloon, when it is flaccid, it is not doing what it's supposed to do. So you put pressure inside or blow some air inside so that it can move into what it's supposed to do, its potential. But now something happens if you keep blowing too much pressure inside than it can handle. It will keep going larger, and most likely it will burst. Now, when it bursts, of course, some noise, and as it is blowing, it's growing bigger. People are seeing that. Now, that's like our life. Now, your life is like a balloon. If you're too flaccid doing nothing, you're not achieving your potential. They say life is supposed to have a little bit of stress, what we call eustress, positive stress, something that pushes you to action. You're built with some potential for activity, and you're supposed to bring out something out of you. Now, when you're not doing that, you're not achieving your potential.
You're
But
not
now, listen,
achieving.
you do have, uh, there's some resources you have inside, and you can only handle so much. Now, when that starts happening in you, it's building pressure inside of you. Now, when that pressure is too much, people around you will start noticing. Probably the way you talk, you'll be cranky most of the times. Probably you'll be one time you're very happy, another time you're just crying with no reason, you know. And you can be rough at people around you. Sometimes you can project, you can be negative. People will notice. You start, if it is a child, they start not liking school. They start, they have certain, maybe their grade starts going down. There's something that is going on. So if not addressed, then that buildup, keeps building, and at some point you burst, what you're calling now, eventually probably get into major depression. And of course, you might need to be hospitalized. But it can be addressed before that point if we're able to address it early. If we're able to keep having moments where sometimes we say, our tradition, they had a way of handling mental illness. Someone was asking, did we have issues of counseling and psychology before we came to read the Western literature? Yes, we had. Those moments where people just meet to talk over, maybe when they're doing their harvesting, or maybe when they're just talking somewhere in the village, when their grandmothers and grandfathers would call their children and grandchildren to give them stories around a fire. Those moments were very significant for mental health, because it is in those moments they would address issues of, what is not considered adaptive behavior in a society. They will give you some proverbs that will tell you, if you do this, this is what is going to happen. They will give you stories of probably the rabbit and what happened when this. Those are kind of therapeutic moments for those people. We don't have that anymore. We have become too busy as parents. We don't have moments of just talking. Some things have been considered a taboo, like some people don't like maybe moments of dancing. Those village dances were very therapeutic.
Yes.
So you could go for that therapy. There's a way it allows you to release, but we don't have that anymore. Life has become too strict, like if you don't behave in a certain way, then you are not fit. But that kind of relaxation helped in the therapeutic moment. So yes, people will notice around you. And when someone gives you feedback that, Themba, there's something, are you okay? Now that's something that should give you a reflection, a moment of reflection, so that you can see what is it that's going on. Your relationships around you will also tell you. You find that probably the people who used to be your friends start avoiding you because you are just too much negative energy around them. And you start calling them, they're not picking because they know if so and so talks to me, this is what they're going to be saying. So they start avoiding you.
Yeah. I was going to add that I think you talked about social. So social is, or you said during the old days that the people would meet somewhere, and that was a therapy session for them where they were all sitting down and the grandmother would be talking. And I think just to piggyback on that is right now with COVID, I think it has even increased now, because now, remember, now we are social beings where we're supposed to go out and meet and sit down and talk. And the last 2 years now, people are, inside their cocoon or in their room just by themselves. So I think, of course, now with COVID, I think it has even increased more in terms of mental issues. So I think this is the right time to talk about it even so much, because the last 2 years where we've had COVID has really affected a lot of people. I think that's probably something you agree.
Yeah. You bring in a very interesting concept, especially someone put it this way. They say that we have been distant, but we have not been we have not been kind of emotionally affected. But there's a sense of coming together and seeing you. You know what COVID came and changed. We are social being, and the way of socialization was in coming together. Coming together. But if only we could be a little like creative, like this way. If you would talk, like this, and you can still meet and interact with each other. That helps in socialization. One interesting thing I see is that even in Zoom meetings, people don't want to see each other. They kind of put on the curtain, and you have to struggle. So you're like, so what is it that you're trying to see? Because there's a lot you see when you are looking at people and you're seeing them. There's much more in reading people's nonverbal reaction to what you're saying. Being able to see, like we want to hear and see with our eyes. You know what I mean. So you're able to capture that, to feel the person. And yes, that has also increased certain mental illnesses within that period of time, which is something we have noticed as a trend that has developed. And of course, there have been many relationship issues coming up around that time. And as you may know, COVID made some of the men now to spend more time with their spouses. And that raised other issues for those who are not spending more time together. So that brought other some of them reported that I came to, and some of them relationships were made better, but some of them were made worse because they realized certain things that they didn't know about their spouses, and that caused other mental issues. Yeah.
And we are going to go to Jane's. Thank you, Mr. Themba. We are going to go to Jane's comment quickly. She talked about child mental health, especially teenagers and preteens. I want to speak as someone who has a very good memory of myself from kindergarten to today. What used to happen, and I told my daughter this today, let's say my father had 21 children. Looking back, there are children that had mental health issues. But back in the day, they would beat you out of whatever issues you had. They didn't want to know if you had a learning disability. They didn't want to know if, like whatever, even left. I had a brother that used to write with the left hand. He was not allowed. So back then, they used to beat the children out of whatever behavior issues they had. That was the solution for all the behavior issues. That was standard. Fast forward, which is now our children, leave those children, now our children, we can't beat the children out of the mental health, whatever illnesses they have, because things have changed. So it's not like these children are more mentally sick now. They were, but back then, we lived in fear, and the parents were not aware that some of these children are not okay. So they would beat them. And fast forward, when you look at my siblings, those siblings that had those issues, they still carry them to today. And what they remember is the beating. They don't remember, the parents feel like they paid school fees for them. They had a nice house. Mm-hmm. Children don't remember like those things that were done to them. They remember the abuse that they were given. And some of them still don't know they have mental illness. But, when they did things they did that the parents could not understand why you're not performing in class, the solution was to spank. So now our generation, people who are doing what our parents did, their children are ending up in the hospitals, literally, because these kids, the children born in the 90s and the 2000s, you're not going to beat them up for things that they can't help.
Yeah, but even now, I think it's more of during that time, that's all they knew, and they didn't have professionals, so they didn't have a chance to have a Themba like you, in within the society. And if the doctor was there, I think growing up during our grandfather or even our dads, the doctors were just doctors for surgery. There was no mental doctors. Yeah. So probably that is something that I think Wanja is saying, that the child or right now the teenage issues which are there, they need to be addressed. During our time, there was nothing like that. We just had to find get out of it.
To be beaten, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah, but it's just, you just have to find a way to get out of it. So now the good thing is people accept that there are mental issues and they are professionals, and I think with the kids we have a chance to figure out there's something wrong and take them to see, come and see you if it is an issue.
And even back then, my time, a lot of children committed suicide then. And they would call it witchcraft. So that brings me to the last question or discussion we want to have. And also, I also want to, I didn't ask you, but I want us to do a segment for children. And I would like to involve my children. And you have I think your daughter talks. You have a YouTube channel where you talk to your daughter.
Yeah. We do have the YouTube channel came as an accident. I talked to my daughter. She's 30, and it's a journey. Like we bond, talking to her, trying to take her through life skills, because life skills is very important for all the children, and also daddy-daughter relationship, because most of us Africans, we are not socialized to have that bond with your daughters. So you have your mom will tell you whatever it is that she needs to tell you. So we started the YouTube channel as a way of inspiring more dads of daughters to try and have that open relationship with their children, because you are the first male figure in her life, and if you're able to give her a positive image of what it is, can prepare her to face life's challenges and issues that will come with us. So yes, we have a YouTube channel, Themba Ondiege TV. We just talk. It's just conversations around life skills and life issues. We talk about so many things. Yeah, and yeah.
Next time I'll pin it. I don't know how to pin it right now.
Yeah, we'll pin the YouTube.
We'll pin the YouTube.
Yes.
And that is something, like I'm telling you, you're going to do with our kids and your daughter. You can. So we'll have something totally set for the children. So, your last.
I was going to say, I think you're trying to address Wanja. I think Wanja wanted to talk about the teen issues, about mental issues, but I think that's just the whole topic by itself.
No, I've responded to her.
So I think
it is there. It is being addressed. He is already talking to his daughter. We are going to talk about the kids and what can be done, how you can help them cope. Don't spank your children out of what they are feeling. What you think is not abuse is abuse to them. That's like a whole discussion. The last thing is the myth or the witchcraft and all these kind of things that have surrounded mental health.
Yeah, you talked about that, and especially the comment that you made about our parents and how they knew what they knew about mental health. Normally, we say that your level of awareness will make you do certain things to a certain level. And they say when you know better, you do better. And when you know best, you do best. So we want to appreciate maybe within their confines. And most likely, that is what they knew, and that's how they were brought up. You're likely to behave according to the parents that took care of you. If they beat you, and you think you are good right now, then you're likely to beat your children and tell them that I was beaten, I never died, and I'm here. So if I beat you,
Yes.
you never die.
Mm.
I read somewhere else written that an African child has to be beaten for them to be good. I mean, you find that kind of narrative and socialization, moving around. The fact that you had that doesn't mean that there are no any other better way of doing it, and it doesn't mean other ways don't work. For some people it worked, but for some it didn't work. And of course, for some, you realize later they are dysfunctional adults. You might have done some of the things because you wanted to please your parents. You are a good child. You are not, you didn't necessarily like it, but you are a good child. There are people who later became good. They were good children, but they, in their life, they are not happy. You became a good child to please your parents or to avoid the caning in
The
let's
beating.
say in some of cognitive development. Someone suggests, no, moral development, someone suggests that there's a way we view life in terms of reward and punishment. So you find later some people, there's a moral stage of development where you're a child and your good behavior, you are viewing it in terms of the reward that you're going to get or the punishment that you want to avoid. Now, these people, even later in their adulthood, that becomes their way of interpreting the world. So they're either getting a reward or they're avoiding a punishment. So if they're not going to get a punishment, if they're going to work, they're going to work because of either the payment they'll get or because they're avoiding to be fired. So you see, if that is what all you're doing, that means that you haven't already found a meaning for what you're actually doing. So if you are told, if you're not punished and you're not rewarded, would you still do the things that you're doing? Someone would say, no, I wouldn't. And to make it even more controversial, Mbane, you want to go to heaven because you want to avoid hell.
Correct. Yes.
So that if there was no hell, would you still want to go to heaven? If there was no this streets of gold that are promised, would you still want to go to heaven? You see that kind of interpreting the world, that good is interpreted in terms of what I get or what I'm avoiding. Now, we would want to train up or to make people grow up or even thrive in a sense where they are finding fulfillment. Not necessarily because of the things you give them, because psychologists have suggested how much can you reward someone to do the best thing? Not much. Because even the people who have, some of them who have died by suicide, some of them are, by normal standards, very successful people who are making lots of money. So how much in the world would you give someone? And just to get you back, there's no ceiling for a reward you can give someone to be so satisfied. So if you can find a purpose from within that will make you, pursue your world, that is what you want to train our children to be. But back to your question about the myths. Of course, some of us believed that in a sense, having an abnormality is a curse. And in some situations where we come from, you are bewitched. Having someone who is some of those didn't exist. Like they exist here, where you are either saying you have anxiety disorders, which have been generalized anxiety disorder, depression. They are not there. They were not there because they didn't have a way of even categorizing. It is because you came home and you have gone to school. That's why you're having this schizophrenia. It's because someone has thrown something on you. So is there a sense of that? Of course, yes. We have some. We can't. Not everything can be explained scientifically. However, we also need to appreciate the awareness that we now have. There's a way that we can have therapy that has been proven to have helped people. the awareness we have, we can be able to have conversations, positive conversations with people that can help these children start having, or even us, start having better lives. We can help people in talking so that their relationships can be better. When you understand the other person, that sometimes is not the person, it is their social, these are totality. Mbane, when you're looking at Penny, is a totality of the village that brought her up and who she is that you're talking to. So sometimes when you're looking at her, if you treat her as just a person, you are likely to be so upset with them and then even think that you are the one who is doing something bad. But if you try understanding someone from that perspective, you will be more empathic and also try to pursue life in a way that can help both of you. And also other people, and also help yourself, because you know, you kind of, it takes two to tango. So you're also saying that when I'm coming in, like for me, when I'm coming in, it's not just me. I'm a net effect of the family, the dad that brought me up, the mom that brought me up, my siblings, the schools that I've gone to. They have socialized me to see the world the way I see it. So we need to appreciate that. Now, finally, when you are dealing with the people who have moved from one culture to another, there's also that effect of that, because now you're moving from Africa to the West. So
that's the environment.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that affect you? You know, like you have issues of either wanting to fit in. Maybe this is where I'm coming from. I still want to hold what I think defines me, but also there's these things that, you know, come in, and you're bringing kids who have been brought up in this environment. So there's that sense of identity. Where is your identity? So that kind of conflict can sometimes bring certain mental issues. And there's also some conversations that we need to have. How do we manage and navigate that process so that we make it easy for all of us in our relationship and ourselves?
Okay. I was going to talk about the village, because
even me,
our village is very.
In fact, that's interesting that we both want to talk about.
When you say that, when I look at her, I should be looking at you just as Penny.
No,
but the village where she comes from is very. It's a very thick. Is it very thick, or it's I'm trying to figure out. I need to know that village, so I need to go there more so I can really understand you.
So Themba, what we just talked about is what Abu and I try to do here every Sunday. We try to talk to couples, because for me, because I went into mental health early because of what I do for work. My job is I'm trained to look at everyone like something is going on, even when nothing is going on, and try to make it better, even when something is going on with them.
And look at them as a whole, not just them.
Yes.
You figure out where they're coming from. Buruburu. We grew up in Eastlands.
Yeah.
In the 70s.
Your job is to de-escalate a situation at all times. Anytime I see Abu is escalating, my job is to de-escalate the situation. A successful day is when me and Abu have not fought. A successful day is a day that there is no incident. But here's the challenge here. You said something today. Six people are talking. There's 3 people from my village, and he has other people from where he's coming from. Where I come from a family of 21 siblings. My father had 4 wives, and I was in a very controlled environment. And from day one, I made it clear to him that there are things I'm not going to take. But then it took me 2 years to understand that Abu is coming from a city and I'm coming from a village. So the way he thinks, the things he does, what I'm thinking, you know what I mean? Even just going to the neighbor's house, I thought that was strange. Where Nyando Chebere, there is no going to people's houses. What are you going to do? So those things are the things that we deal with every day as people, not understanding where the other person is coming from. Sometimes is what really pushes you into depression, into anxiety, into just not being a person that somebody can live with. Last month, he came to tell me a story about South Africa. Something had happened in South Africa. I don't know what you came to tell me.
What was it, last month?
Yeah, like
oh yeah. So I think I was telling you about that everything flipped, and they're actually white people who are in South Africa, and they are homeless.
Yeah,
they don't have anything to eat
in South Africa.
In South Africa, was that the thing?
Yeah, how life can change for people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was listening to the story. It took me a few seconds to go back to my childhood. I went back to when I was in 4th grade. Quickly, I didn't think much, and I remembered the kind of trauma I experienced for 2 years, like 4th grade, 5th, like there's a time of my life that I have painful memories. So, as he's giving me the story, my heart sank. I relived those years, and I cried. He didn't finish the story. Mm-hmm. I cried tears. I couldn't stop crying. I'm trying to
remember, yes, because I think it was more...
You are telling me how things can change for people.
Yes, just like that.
And at that age, I was asking myself, as a 10-year-old, that's young, will I ever get out of this? And I'm thinking, like we are like in a prison. It felt like a prison to me, not a family. So I would cry. So when he told me that, he brought the trauma back. And that's what you talked about. When you meet people, it's good to understand where they're coming from. Because if you don't, you're going to take them back.
Yeah, you take them back on your normal talk. So I might be talking about, I grew up in the city, and I'm talking about electricity,
Yeah.
And to me, that was normal. But somebody else is saying,
from the village.
Yes, somebody from the village is saying, oh, do you know, by the time electricity came to us was after so many years, or, and to me, that's, I'm just talking.
The things that are important to me, they are not important to
So
him.
it's a trigger for your mentality.
He's only triggering me, like the trigger.
But there's one thing that I would want to say that you pointed out there, which I think it's important for our listeners to appreciate.
Yes.
Is that if Penny, it's possible that most of us hold some traumatic moments that we haven't dealt with, and those are called unfinished businesses.
Yes.
Now, if you don't go for therapy to handle those unfinished businesses, chances are that sometimes they can interfere with either your communication pattern or even what people say, like maybe the triggers that will come by. Sometimes even if you haven't mourned some of the losses that have happened in your life, probably if someone died and you didn't grieve properly, you are likely to find that when you can actually find yourself crying while just watching a movie that is not even related to, you see someone dying there, then you start crying. Or even someone tells you about someone else and you start crying because of what has happened, yet it's because of the losses that you haven't grieved. So it is a recommendation that if you have had any loss or grief or something has happened, or you have those traumatic moments, you need to see a therapist so that you can process that. Because that trigger, and even the fact that you can find yourself still crying, that shows that it hasn't yet been processed. So if you can go for therapy so that it can help you process that, it will be more helpful to you and also to people around you, because you find sometimes that moment becomes uncomfortable. And maybe the people around you might not necessarily know how to handle you at that time, because we go through lots of traumatic moments in our lives, but the healing moment starts when you acknowledge and then you start processing. It's a journey for some people. If you start walking the journey, it will be helpful. You can even sometimes not necessarily. If you cannot see a therapist, you might need to write your thoughts down in a journal and allow yourself to cry, allow yourself to shed tears, because that's also a therapeutic moment for you. If you do that as often as you do, you'll find a time will come after you've processed it, even when it is mentioned, it will not trigger a lot. But back to the idea of where we are coming from. You see, there are behaviors you'd expect because of certain environment. They are our survival mode. For example, if you are many in your home, and when food was put there, you had to struggle to eat it.
That chicken wing.
So most likely later you develop that sense of if I don't get it, if I don't eat it right now, I will not get it. So even sometimes, even when you have food, you still find someone struggling to eat the whole of it. You're like, why are you serving so much and there's a lot of food? It is because of the socialization. If I did eat it within a certain time, I will not.
It was taken away.
So yeah, so it becomes a socialization process that they do have. Another thing is, if you grew up in a certain environment where security was always an issue. You had to make sure that the place is locked. You are likely to develop certain behavior.
Yeah.
You want to kind of like close or something like that. So understanding people from that perspective can make you learn to live together with them. When you understand people from where they are coming from, it can help you understand them better and maybe help also in your communication. What are the things you say? How do you interact? What do you say? How do you make people appreciate? Because you have to live together. So, that way you're able to see how to make it easier for them to interact with you.
Wow. I have another trauma, doctor, since you're on. Abu did not hug me. I just remembered. When I started crying, I just remembered. I need to tell you.
I think now we're in a session. I think this is a session.
Going back to the African man, really I've thought about it. You should have stopped what he was doing to come and hug me.
No, let me tell you what happened. I think
come and
Themba, I think what happened was I think even what he mentioned is what I said. I think I told you need to see somebody. Because I think I was talking about this and I'm seeing you reacting in a different way.
But why didn't you hug me though before?
Now this is a different. First of all, how am I going to hug you? I don't even know what the trigger is because I'm trying to figure out. This is my story. Where did this come?
But that's a good example, Themba, because I'm crying, and he went about his business.
It's the African in me.
The African in Abu. He just went about his business, and now I'm thinking about it is a trigger now because I'm like, oh, you should have hugged me. But it's the way we were brought up, how we look at things. He can't give me a service he doesn't understand.
Yeah, it's true. I keep saying something that once you understand where people are coming from, you'll not blame them. You'll not put them at a box, because our dilemma and our greatest confusion is we have always thought that there's this template where every man or every lady need to operate from. But you see now that is the misdirection. You can read about so many of these templates, but this person does not come with a template. You need to just understand them from how they were socialized and how they have come. You'll find yourself probably fighting, and maybe for some reason for him, that probably was not his socialization as to how to respond when someone has started shedding tears. Yet some of us, because of our socialization, we imagine that when this is happening, these are the things we need to do. And that has really caused lots of issues, because let me tell you, if there was a template, why is it that those people who have read some of those templates don't necessarily have very successful relationships?
Yes, that's true.
It is because there's something that is lacking. It is about the individual. How do I understand my person and where they're coming from? Forget about this thing they're told, women are this, ladies are, men are this. No, you're not dating men, or you're not with the women. You are with one person, one woman, and you're with one man. So what is the socialization of this person that I am with? How do we get along? Because now from there, you'll see, okay, fine, these are the things I need to expect, and these are the things, and some of them are our expectation, you know.
Yeah.
If I expect certain things, sometimes you haven't told the person, these are the things I'm expecting. That way, you'll be able to negotiate in your relationship. And, you know, like you say, I go this far, you go this far. And then, of course, you see, if you're already married, then it becomes easier. If you're not yet married, then you can say, can I live with this or not? You know, if it is something you can live with, then you can always go your separate ways before thinking that let's see how it works when we get together.
Yes.
In the seeing how it works when you get together, then one thing leads to another, and you leave that place probably more damaged than you want.
So, as a professional, I want to ask you before we end this conversation. After today, we just did the intro, which is so historical for me, for my show, and what I want to do, because I promised to create awareness, mental awareness for 2022, and we are going to take it on. Today, we kind of just went everywhere. Where do you think we should move next after this? So I'm going to be ready. Our viewers are going to be ready so they know what to expect the next time we are here.
Okay, mental health has basically it's us. It has issues of relationships. It has issues of how we communicate. It has issues of depression, issues of suicide and suicide prevention. That's issues I mean, we can start from you know, relationships, communication, and of course, at some point also discuss relationships. And also, our viewers could also share with us what they would want us to focus on as we move by. So from also our viewers' feedback, we will be more than obliged to respond to what they will have told us. So I'm here, I'm ready, and of course willing to take us through the conversation. And hopefully we create the awareness, and people take the step to take care of themselves, because there's no health without mental health.
And I want to make everybody aware that you are volunteer. You gave your time, free time to come here to talk about this. And you had told me that you are not licensed to practice in America.
Yeah.
But you are licensed to practice in Kenya.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw it to you to tell the viewers or whoever is going to watch this video, are you open to have a discussion with people? Are you willing to see patients in Kenya? Like, what's your situation right now in terms of the viewers that are coming on?
Yeah, online clients from Kenya, those who want to see me, that's fine. From Texas, I've got a professional colleague who is here. We can talk to him so that we can give his contacts. Okay. And I would also ask those who are in the US, if you have certified licensed practitioners within your reach or where you can find them, kindly consider visiting them so that you can be seen. But for Texas, I'll talk to a professional colleague who is licensed to practice here, and we can refer those who will be willing to be attended to within the US. Yeah.
Would you like to share your number?
Sure. My number is 901.
Okay. Let me write it down. 905.
901.
901.
319.
319.
7507.
7507. 901 319 319.
Okay. 319
7507.
7507. 07.
No, 07.
07.
07. That's it.
Then space H.
Themba. Mr. Themba.
Yeah, Themba Ondiege. Themba, as it is there, Ondiege, ONDIEGE.
Okay. O-N.
OND
OND
I
mm-hmm.
EGE.
EGE.
Yeah.
And again.
Yeah,
ONDIEGE.
that's Facebook, that's YouTube, Themba Ondiege TV, and that's also Instagram, and also Twitter.
Okay.
Okay, I put it there. I don't know, Mr. Themba, I don't know how to pin on StreamYard, so I learned it for the first
You're learning
time.
as you're doing it.
Yeah.
You go to comments.
Just go to comment and just write.
Yeah, go to comment and then you put it there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you can pin it.
You can go to comment and then you put it there.
Okay.
We do that, yeah.
Yeah. So the people can reach out to you, and I want to again thank you so much for giving your time to come and talk to us. In fact, I'm feeling so
like a therapy.
For those who are not in the US, you tell them to add the code +1.
Oh yeah, they'll add. Most of these people nowadays, they have such a
they know.
They know.
US, they do +1.
Yeah. I try to keep. I run a show. I come on Facebook twice a day. I try to keep it as real as possible. I try to tell people that we are just regular people. People are going through things. Don't shy away from asking for help, because life is for the living, those people who are living. And when we are afraid to face our fears and face some of these challenges, especially mental health issues, we are burying a lot of people. We are losing a lot of our family members to alcohol, which we are going to talk about, substance abuse.
Yeah.
So they're looking for something somewhere, and in the process, we are losing them.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for agreeing to come so we can start this discussion, and truly, truly from the bottom of my heart, thanks a lot for taking time to come and be with us.
Yeah, especially on a Friday evening, I think we want to mention that the fact that it's a Friday evening, people have their social life to go to and live. So again, we want to thank you for taking the time to come on the platform and inform people, actually educate most of us into these mental issues. I think, and again, we're going to go back to men. We don't talk about this very much, and I think maybe one of the Fridays will focus on mental issues just for men.
Yeah. Just you and them, but by the way, I don't have to be there.
Yeah, so that we tackle this issue head on. Especially now we're saying 2022 should be the year of when we talk about mental issues and fix all the issues that are around socially. So again, thank you very much for coming on the platform.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me on your platform. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for the viewers, and hope to meet you again on Friday.
Yes.
I'm asking him if he learned anything. So
I learned to. I'm going to hug you when you cry next time. That's a very big plus.
And you know what he said? There's 6 people talking. Me, I think that's my takeaway. When you're talking to me, it's 6 people talking.
Yeah. My takeaway even is more of what Wanja talked about. Wanja is saying that for us to know that when I'm talking to you, it's not just Penny. I'm talking to the village, to your mom, to your dad.
No, you said.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what Wanja was saying. That's my takeaway. That's the biggest thing I've learned today. Is that when I'm talking to her, it's not just Penny. I'm talking to the entire. What's the village called? Nyandochebi. I'm talking to the entire.
I'm always very clear. I tell him I'm not from Nairobi. Nairobi, we came to come to get the visa, so it's very important.
So yeah, I mean, I'm sure even our viewers, they've learned something today. So thank you again very much.
Thank you so much. God bless you all. See you again.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.